Anthony Mason died at 48 on a date when St. John's beat Georgetown, a season-affirming victory of 1980s vintage. That happened to be the time when a teenage Mason was growing into his muscular body, setting out on the long and winding road to Madison Square Garden from Springfield Gardens High School in Queens. This was no simple journey, in part because Mason never made it very easy on himself. Unlike Spock, he was never the first officer of his emotions, much less the captain. But as a Knick for a portion of those 1990s years affectionately remembered as the Patrick Ewing era, Mason was, if only between the lines, much more than a role player and certainly more of a consummate New Yorker than James L. Dolan could ever dream of being. He was loud. He was tough. He was, in so many respects, self-made. Along the way to becoming the N.D.A.'s Sixth Man of the Year in 1994-95, from Tennessee State to a couple of short-lived stays in Denver and New Jersey, Mason was just another guy beating around the basketball bushes, toiling for the Long Island Surf of the United States Basketball League. In late June 1991, an overflowed crowd filled the gymnasium in Old Westbury, mostly for Lloyd Daniels, the New York prodigy whose walks on the wild side made Mason look like a choir boy. Daniels had been neck-deep in trouble, shot 3 times in May 1989 over money taken from a teenager to buy drugs. Playing for the Miami Tropics, he was determined to put on a show, catch the eye of an NBA scout. His body was too soft, too spent. He withered in the brutish presence of the 6'7", 235-pound Mason, whose 36 points more than caught and held eye of Fuzzy Levin, who worked for the Knicks. I went way back with Fuzzy, had watched him play when I was 5 or 6, said Krinsky, who was the general manager of the Surf, said in a telephone interview. I had told him that Anthony's problems were mostly attributable to his personality, but that I really believed he could play in the NBA. He was a huge guy with backcourt skills. Fuzzy came and saw for himself. Soon Mason was on the Knicks Summer League roster, getting a chance under the watchful eye of the new coach, Pat Riley. Riley was in the stands, behind the bench, and Anthony supposedly pulled down a rebound, dribbled the length of the floor and dunked on some 7-footer, said Mason's longtime agent, Don Ronzone. It was the start of a beautiful and dysfunctional relationship. Anthony Mason of the Knicks pulling down a rebound in front of Horace Grant of the Chicago Bulls during a game in 1992. Anthony Mason, bruising Knicks forward, dies at 48 February 28, 2015. Anthony Mason, in many ways, was Pat Riley, Ronzone said.